Welcome back after a long break for another Altès Etude. Altès always really has specific goals for us in mind. And for number 23, he tells us up front what it is that we're working on. If you just listen to this etude, I think you should be able to tell what it is that Altès wants us to work on. Could you tell? If you're not sure, pause the video for a second and just think about what you heard. In this etude, Altès is very specific that we're working on playing intervals. Mostly these are thirds in fast passages. And if you look up this etude in the Altès Complete Method, not just the selected studies that we tend to look at, you'll see that he actually wrote this in 2 separate keys. This is the only etude that we have in this Altès collection that we have a bis number. We have number 23 and we have 23 bis. If you have an address in France, say that you're going down the street and you see number 23, then right next to 23 you might have 23 bis. It would be like 23A. It can also mean encore, so we do 23 once and then we do it again. Altès wrote a 23 bis here because he really wants you to practice it in at least 2 keys. He wants you to do it as you find in your selected studies in the key of B flat major, but he also wrote it all out up 1 step starting on G in the key of C major. We've seen before on some of Altès etudes, numbers 12, 19, 20, that he did suggest that we transpose those etudes, but he did not actually write them out in a transposed version. He did that here, and in fact, 23 in the Complete Method is the one that starts on G. It was the editor Barrere's idea to print as number 23 the one that starts on F in the key of B flat. I think he chose to print it in this key and then just tell us to transpose it up and start on G instead of F. Because you've got so many flats in this key, you have lots of E flats and A flats. So you're involving these 2 pinkies a lot that can make things messy. You have to lift this finger on your E flats and Ds a lot. It's just a little bit harder to play cleanly in this key. And if you want to understand more about the reasons why, go back and watch Flute Tube episode 2. I talk about Michel Dubost and the 3 little devils. Getting to the details of practicing this specific etude. As I work towards full tempo, because not surprisingly he wants this to be very fast, I shift from thinking of quarter notes to thinking in half notes, because that makes it easier to think of a bigger, slower beat, and all those little fast notes somehow feel less busy. I'm trying to minimize thinking of every single note. This etude takes a lot of endurance. So the very opening marking, leggero, is very important. And you do know what leggero means, right? I'm not going to tell you. If you don't know, you'll have to look it up. Also, to increase my endurance, I like to think of small movements with my tongue and my fingers. I like to minimize the amount of energy I'm expending on each little note. This is 5 pages long without a lot of chance to rest. On the bottom of page 2, don't cheat those long note values in order to get to the fast notes. Sometimes we cheat and we don't play the long notes quite long enough, so we have a little more time for our fast notes. And the same thing with the long notes on page 3. Don't cheat them because you're nervous and you want to get to the fast notes. When you get to page 4, really go for the animato on that page because you've got a huge tempo difference right there. The only way to successfully get from the tempo you have been at, quarter note equals 96, to this new fastest tempo of all, quarter note equals 152, is to do a really good animato there. By the last section, especially if you're playing this as a piece and you're not stopping, you are going to be worn out. When I get to all of these staccatos, I'm being really careful not to do too much extra on the staccatos and wear out my tongue. I'm also focusing hard on keeping resonance in my sound and clarity, focus. I don't let things get fuzzy as I'm getting tired. The last thing that I'll say as a clue to performing and practicing preparing this etude is that you want to keep reminding yourself to breathe efficiently and deeply. You don't have a lot of time to breathe, but those breaths are very important. If you want those little tendons and muscles to keep working well, you need a lot of oxygen both for your muscles and in your brain. It takes a lot of concentration and endurance to get through this etude. Breathing well, breathing deeply and efficiently is really your only hope to keep everything oxygenated and continue to have endurance and concentration through the whole 5 pages of this etude.